and the governments of these illegal regimes. They need to start talking to us about black law on the whole of Australia, because it is all black land. They need to be talking to us about the human rights abuses that they are causing every day on people, on country, by not even recognise our right to practice our culture on country. Our cleansing ceremonies, the fire, the smoke, that's an intrinsic part of this country. It'll never ever go while we walk and live our life and culture the way we choose. Self-determination is our right, not theirs to tell us the Daisy Bates paternalism that keep on condemning them to make these mistakes of the past, because the agenda is still extinguishment and genocide for them. We're here today to tell them we continue to resist, we continue to fight. This is a call to arms for all of our supporters across Australia to stop this racism, the sickness, the disease, the virus that they have called racism. That's what's got to be attacked in this country. We're all human. We all bleed the same. We all cry the same. We all shit the same. There's a time and a place for everything under God's law in His time. And for us now, this is our time to take our country back, to let the law of the land be the law of the land. That's black law. If you get punished by our system, you always know every time you try and walk with a lame leg why you were punished. And you never forget. That's a system that will continue to be practiced by our people regardless of what white Australia says, and tries to force us to assimilate into their culture. We're the oldest people on the planet. For God's sake, respect that. Can I bring to the microphone a young lady from Western Australia, young Ebony, who will tell us about what those communities are being forced to endure at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Jenny. I'd like to begin by thanking the people whose land I'm on, to Old People's Struggles, and for you guys, the existing descendants, for your struggles today, and that you guys are still here surviving. Great agency all the way, people, strugglers and fighters, warrior people. All right, I'm pretty nervous, so I've got notes here, and I don't want to mess up any of the facts or details, so I'd like to go off my notes. Today I'm talking about, I guess, the 100-year industrialization agenda, the 100-year-old industrialization agenda of the Kimberley, and that this, this third wave of genocide and dispossession marks that this third wave of dispossession marks our third wave of genocide up to date. So, as mentioned, I can only speak from my own experiences of the Kimberley. I know that there are continuing land justice issues nationwide, that the NT here in Redfern, in New South Wales more generally with the fracking, and in the desert areas, we have all our own land justice issues. So as I said, here we are seeing the third move of colonisation and genocidal processes to achieve development. As we see nationwide, there is a development agenda when it comes to Indigenous people and their land, where profit and development comes before community and before culture and before people. So this Kimberley industrialisation agenda started in the mid-1800s, where there was a strategic move in which people were moved off of country for pastoralism and the expansion of the southern colony in Perth to my Noongar brothers and sisters up into the north. Sorry, guys. They already knew of the richness of my country, which was marked by the gold rush that came through Halls Creek not long after. The initial wave of dispossession was for pastoralism, to expand the stations. They initially removed my people to expand the stations in the pastoralist industry, and then that moved on into the mining rush and moving Aboriginal people and keeping Aboriginal people off of stations, and then on into moving people into the missions. So this first lot of mixing with that first wave of industrialisation gave us our first generation of mixed babies. This gave them the excuse, a child protection excuse when it came to land. Remember this point. So they were moved off of their sovereign dominions in order for this industry. So this is their first interaction, as I said, and the first generation of mixed babies. These children were taken and people were blocked from lands and forced into assimilation on the stations for work or food, or into the missions to keep with family or on country. So these first lot of mob, mainly around the Fitzroy Valley area, I might add, so my Gunyan mob, were forced onto stations and where they were pretty much slaves. The second wave of movement in the Kimberley then came with people asking for their rights as workers on these stations. When people started to strike and the walk-offs happened, the station owners would not recognise them. They once again were second-class citizens, and so they walked. They walked to preferring their own homelands and returning to their countries where they'd been pushed off of. This marked the second exodus of Kimberley people into the big community centres such as Halls Creek, Fitzroy and Broome. This left people once again displaced and homeless. The 70s and 80s seen my people rise up again with Nukumba, and people rose up and chose to go to their homelands. When I was born in the 80s, this homelands movement was really kicking off, and Aboriginal people were returning and developing these stations. When I was growing up, I had the privilege of living and, I guess, experiencing these communities. Around this time, there was a rhetoric of land rights, and people were pushing for ownership and veto of those lands. Nukumba came out of my old people first saying no to the bulldozers and the mining. Land rights were squashed by our Premier Court, so people under the homelands, I guess, were moved into big cities or townships again. With the funds that came with ATSIC, people were able to go back onto communities, start developing these outstations, remove themselves from the missions and stations, and start to, I guess, manifest the dream of our old people pre-Nukumba, which was to be on our country, where we're most healthiest, lively, and strong. When ATSIC, let me note that these communities were developing. There was infrastructure, people were strong, lifestyles were healthy, and Aboriginal people were getting that self-determination that we're all asking for now. So then we come through to when CDP and ATSIC are axed and Aboriginal people start getting removed from homelands into bigger communities such as One on Point, Luma, Jalmarenga, Yearly, etc. And once again, people are being removed from their countries. Now we're at the third wave of industrialisation, where native title offers no protection. We have no veto to whatever the government wants to do in our country, and no real control of our babies. I bring up this child protection issue for a reason. Hold up. So, with Premier Colin Barnett's initial announcement, Kimberley people understood this as a fiscal issue. They were talking about budgets, expenditure, and infrastructure. This has now gone to an issue of child protection again, reminiscent of Northern Territory intervention, yeah? So this is the third round of land grabs. Last July, we had a Kimberley-wide moratorium on fracking, where all the tribes in the Kimberley said no to fracking. Gina Reinhardt has just started buying land around most of the communities that are proposed to be shut down to open up the floodgates of fracking. I've seen the development proposals for the Broome Township to be duplicated and moved all the way up the Dampier Peninsula to facilitate all these the closing down of the communities around that area, moving people off of the country where we aren't allowing development of, I guess, we've put a moratorium on fracking. We're saying no to uranium. We've stopped James Price's Point and the world's largest untapped national, thank you, natural oil and gas project. As a region, we're standing up and saying, no, this is our country, this is our land, and land is the most important thing to us as cultural people in terms of next generation's health. All these welfare statistics that they're throwing out there, the way that we are healthy and are cultural as people is that connection to land, and without that land connection, then we do get sick. So then we have super communities that are going to result out of all the communities in the Kimberley being shut down. This means a rise in homelessness for Brome, Wyndham, Kununurra and Derby, a rise in overcrowding in housing, and then consequent environmental health issues that stem from that overcrowding. This issue of child protection and the fiscal issue. With Umbulgari, it was initially an issue that the money and the numbers weren't stacking up. But when it comes to them mining and my land, somehow babies always get put up or brought into the picture. This is the third wave, and each wave has had to do with land and babies. Now the babies are being poured into it again as the excuse for access to the land. The the Heritage Act at the moment is being watered down so that people who have been moved off of their land will not be able to satisfy a connection requirement under the Native Title Act, which means that right to negotiation will dwindle as well. Mining approvals and exploration tenements will be easier once our people aren't on those lands. Excuse me, sorry. So once again, this child protection rhetoric and the false benevolence of old is being used as an excuse to push community off their lands, make Aboriginal people in the Kimberley once again second-class citizens, or pretty much just non-human. This is an ongoing human rights issue. It's an ongoing issue with native title, ideas of sovereignty and land rights, and child and protection welfare issues. I'd like to also, again, reiterate that national land and justice issues are being experienced by Aboriginal people nationwide. I'd like to also, yeah, thank you. That's it.
Right, thanks, Ebony, for that. All right, we've got Barbara Shaw coming up to talk next.
Oh, great. I'd like to acknowledge I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this country. It's cold here, but I'm only stopping here overnight and heading to Canada tomorrow. I'd also like to acknowledge my little mate down here. His name's Jalamba. Hey! He's come and spent a few times, and mostly his whole time in Alice Springs at my house with my children on a town camp. I'm fourth generation living on a town camp. I'm a descendant of the Kadij, Aranda, Walpri and Warramungal people in the Northern Territory. So many things we can talk about, so little time. We know that a lot of our issues and our needs and our wants as First Nations peoples, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, they fall on deaf ears. just like the speaker before me, I know what it's like to be in the situation where your home is about to be taken off you. I was there when John Howard and Mel Brough announced the intervention or the emergency response into Aboriginal community living areas in the Northern Territory, and I'm still living under it. My children are still living under it. My grandkids are living under it. My families are still living under it from remote communities. We do have the intervention that was supposed to stop all the violence, the drug and alcohol antisocial behaviour in our towns. I live in a town camp that we have problems with the influx of our families coming in off communities. And just the other day I learned that they're slowly financially droughting communities, stopping services going into their communities in WA. Kirakura would be the closest community, about 50 k's west of the NT-WA border. People are starting to move in from there because there's no services to these people that live in the Western Desert. People may remember Kirakura and Kintor because that's where they found the last nomads in the 80s. What I am disgusted at is the Indigenous advancement strategy, where a lot of our organisations are being drip-fed money or funds to run our services to our people. So the people that are who have got a bigger hand in the pie are non-government services taking away the jobs from our people. We know that children's services or FACS or what do you call it, your docs, we know that our children are being forcibly removed from their families, their communities and their homelands. Like everywhere else across Australia, children are our God's gift. They're precious to us. So if we have no homes, or if we're living in an overcrowded situation, or if we're not having the services delivered to our people and our children are going to be taken away. My little friend over here, he knows what it's like to sleep at Auntie Ginny's house, in the lounge room, with all the kids, because that's the safest place, with the mother or with the aunties or with the grandmothers. If FACS came into my house, seen me sleeping in the lounge with all the children, and even my little wet friend over here wants to sit up all night, watch TV. You know, they'd be taking kids away that way. When husbands and wives or partners are having disputes, they take kids away. When children aren't going to school, they take children away. When a child has a high metabolism but not putting on any weight, they take your children away. They talk about closing the gap, 17 years, life expectancy. We know that our people live better, healthier, longer lives on their country, in their homes, with their families. Statistics say so. We know that when people are living on their lands, in their countries, in their communities, and they're working, they're staying out of jail. They're not caught up with the justice system. when our kids are out in their communities, with their people, on their country, they learn in two ways. Living in a two-world situation, they learn better. We know that the NAPLAN test isn't good for our mob, and I think it's rubbish. My kids go to mainstream school and they hate NAPLAN test. Yet my children can receive the Chief Minister's Awards for doing excellence throughout the year. When we put our mind to it, our kids and our families and ourselves, we can do what we want, when we want, however we want. We don't need dictatorship from the government. There's a Scrooge that lives in the Territory that's supposed to be your minister and my minister. He's lived in the Territory for that long. He was in Parliament when the intervention came out, and he's there as the Minister for Indigenous Affairs. And he thinks what he's doing with the IAS, the removal of people from their communities, is the best thing. And who's this other fool that lives over in Manly, saying that removal, people should make a lifestyle choice to move off their communities? What would he know about living on a community, living off the land, protecting your country, protecting your sites? Except the North Shores that come in on the beach. He promised to spend 2 weeks in every community in Australia when he got in. What world does that fool live in? Don't live in my world. I have communities coming to my home all the time. Adriana! Sorry. No, I had to say that. So, you know, a lot of people have come to my house, come and gone. They know all my family that comes from remote communities. You know, once upon a time throughout the intervention, communities in the Territory with compulsory land acquisition and the smaller communities that had less than 100 people, those communities were deemed uneconomically unviable. So, yet they're still hanging on. There's still people living there. My grandfather, you know, still comes and goes, still lives on his country, comes and goes all the time. You know, he's made that lifestyle choice to come and visit his family in town. Not to stay, because he knows when he overstayed, he's welcome. He knows my rules in my house. But we're also facing new changes to housing. We're having a lot of issues around trying to evict people from our homes or trespassing unwanted visitors. Now, the government's saying that they can't change any legislation within the housing policy in the Territory, but yet when we had our housing under community living or Indigenous community living areas, we had committees that evicted people and trespassed unwanted visitors. They say the crime has dropped in the Territory, but me sitting on the outskirts of Alice Springs on my town camp, I know that, you know, things haven't changed. I still see, you know, alcohol, domestic violence. I still see alcohol-related social, you know, yeah. I tried to find Nat and Patty, but they not around. So we know, you know, there are problems, and we know that over the years that we tried to work so hard. You know, a lot of our Aboriginal organisations are nearly 50 years old. It took Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people to the streets for us to get our services right across the country. We have them today, and that's why they exist in states and territories. We have our health services. We had our job network centres that provided a service for our people to find jobs. We can no longer live under dictatorship, so we need to get back out onto the streets. From big things, from little things, big things grow, and stepping off a plane and coming straight to a rally, it's very hard back at home because I can't get this many to a rally unless it's about police or racism. So anybody can say something about being a racist, I'm not a racist, but you look at what the federal government's created. Suspended the Racial Discrimination Act to put a policy on Aboriginal people just living in designated areas, communities, outstations and town camps in the territory. And now they're doing it to Western Australia. Slowly they're moving to South Australia. No town or city is prepared for the influx. Housing is a human right. Everybody should have a roof over their head. Every child should have a roof over their head. Everybody should have food on the table. Everybody should have a job. Everybody should have clothing on their back. Once our services go down the drain, because of the government's created it by their policies, who's going to help us then? Maybe I should go over to Manly with my little family and ask Abbott and the residents over there if they can help me. If I can go and sleep in their lounge room. If I can go and eat off their table. Because I know, people who know me, they know that I put my house up for all my family. So if my family are going to be getting kicked out of their homes and I give up mine, I want to go to Abbott's. Thank you, everyone.
Then we got some Maori boys going to do a bit of a dance, and then we got brother Albert up here and myself going to have a bit of a yarn before we move it on. So we'll keep it going.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. My name is Rebel Hanlon. I'm the Assistant Secretary of the CFMEU Construction Division. I'm an Indigenous man, got an Indigenous background. My family's from a Junee, and I'm proud. I'm proud to call myself Indigenous. I'm proud to stand here today in front of fellow people that give a stuff about the working class of this country and where this country's going to. I'm proud to stand here, and we all should be proud of what we're trying to achieve here tonight as well. I look around here tonight and I see some great guest speakers, and I'll tell you what, it's pretty hard to beat the first speaker we had here tonight. Oh, geez, thank Christ I didn't get asked to come on second. I'll tell you that right now. It's good to see Barb here and good to see some other people too, but I think we've really got to get down to the crux of the issue here. We heard a lot of good speakers here tonight. And we're going to make it abundantly clear. The CFMEU's got a proud history with our Indigenous brothers and sisters and taking the fight up and taking it up hard. We're there with Alice Springs with Paddy and the boys up there when we're building the house. The first house that was built in the intervention was from the trade union movement. It wasn't from no government department, it was from us. We built it. I find it disgraceful, disgraceful. The attack that we're seeing non-stop onto our people, the traditional people. This is black man's land, this has always been our land, and it should be respected as being our land. We have to respect that. We've currently got a Prime Minister of this country that I don't understand. He turns around and he says he understands our issues. Bullshit. I don't understand how you understand our issues, Tony. When before you got the Prime Ministership, you thought that welcome to country was bullshit. You thought that our culture was bullshit. But all of a sudden now, because it gives you a few votes and might get you into Parliament, you turn around and say you understand. You understand what's going on in the communities. You understand how people have been treated up in Alice Springs, up in Darwin, out in Kimberley. You understand that. Well, if you understand that, my friend, how about you jump out of bed with the mining division of this country, with the Gina Reinhardts and those people. How about you jump out of bed with them, and how about you come down to a rally like this? How about you go up to Barb's house up in Alice where I've been, sit down, share some bread and see the families and see those rotten, disgusting signs put there about the intervention out the front of her township. How about you go and see that and you tell me there's no racism, there's no division, there's no nothing in this country. Shame on you, Tony. You don't know what you're talking about again. And it takes me great pride that I've been asked of some very good friends of mine. They asked me if I'd like to come here for a rally. I feel privileged. I feel privileged to stand up here again. Because we are going to take the fight up to the government, we'll take it up to the capitalists, we'll take it up to anyone who wants to masquerade as a community leader, but you're not listening to the community. The community's made it simple. The community's made it simple. It's not hard. It's not hard. Guess what? There was a thing called the GFC, eh? We don't all want to be capitalists and multi-millionaires, but guess what? It's our land. We want what built on it with our say, and how we get it done is up to us, not up to the multinationals of this country. I say to you now, brothers and sisters, I say to you now, isn't it great? And I think this is the most appropriate place to have a rally and a starting point. A rally here at Belmore Park. A lot of history here, a lot of history buried under that concrete too, unfortunately. But we'll move forward. And I'm saying to you now, the CFMEU's position is going to be pretty clear. We're saying you either build us affordable housing or you build us nothing. It's simple. We want the affordable housing. We want it now. We don't want it in 10 years. We don't want it in 5 years. We want it now. We want the cultural centre now. That's what we want. We want it now. And we're sick and tired of the false promises. You've got the big government in here who unfortunately just got elected. I know I didn't vote that way, so anyway. I'm quite sure I'm with some like-minded people here, guaranteed probably didn't vote that way either. But unfortunately, we're stuck with that. Why is it so that a Premier got elected into this state and an issue that's 5 minutes from the Quarry Street, not one single senior politician can actually bother to get out of the ivory tower and come down here and talk to the traditional landowners of this country? Why? I'm going to ask you that question, why? And you really got to think about it too. Why is it so that over 400, a couple of hundred people who are showing up here tonight on a Friday night, very bad weather? Why is it so that no politicians come down here? We know the answer, because they don't care. They don't care. The election's done. We don't need to listen to false promises. We don't need to listen to crap, because we've been listening to 150 years of false promises and crap. That's what we've been listening to. And I say to you, brothers and sisters, now's the time. Now's the time we've got to stand up and fight. We've got to be united. And I was very interested in listening to the other guest speakers here tonight who spoke about something that we didn't think we'd actually talk about. Let's be honest. There's a hell of a lot of racism out there. There's a hell of a lot. Well, why hasn't anyone come down here to address the issue? Why is it so that all they want to talk about is building a shopping centre and a bloody student accommodation for the UTS for international students to fly in off the airport, go straight in there, live on our land, eat off our land, and not contribute anything back to the traditional owners of this land? I find that disgraceful, and I find that morally bankrupt. Morally bankrupt. And I ask you now, and there's a couple of things we really got to ask each other. How do we move forward with this? How do we move forward with this? How are we going to take the fight forward? Well, brothers and sisters, I'll tell you now how we take the fight forward. We hold the bastards accountable. And we hold them accountable. And how we're going to do that is that everyone here that's here tonight is going to go and talk to three or four more people tonight. And the crowd you see here tonight's only 1/5 of what you actually got here tonight. It's going to be 5 times as bigger. We've got to maintain the rage. We've got to keep the fight going, because all we want built in the block is affordable housing. Can anyone tell me why is that an issue? Can anyone tell me why the greedy capitalists that live in society, I'm sure this isn't happening everywhere else. Jesus, does this happen down in Marnes Point too, Jesus? Miller's Point, is that happening to Miller's Point too? How dare working class people live down at Miller's Point too, eh? How dare you? Move out, move out. We need to get the rich in there. We need to knock up the fancy units. Get out of there. What a disgrace. That's not Australia. That's not the country we live in. We live in a country that's worked up on hard work, and hard work's rewarded. We live in a country where everyone's supposed to be treated as an equal, except if you're Indigenous. Everyone is to be treated like that. That's the country I've been brought up in. That's the country we all live in. And that's the country we've got to stand up and fight for and defend it. Because I'll tell you now, brothers and sisters, in my opinion, we're at the crest of where we're seeing a Prime Minister of this country who is so divisive and racially divisive that he will put wedges in there that'll drive us back to 50, 60 years ago. And I feel we're better than that. We're better than that. And isn't it fantastic for me to stand here? And I'm actually glad to stand here for once at a rally, and I'd like to thank everyone, eh? Seriously, I'm not the youngest person here, so it's great, eh? It's absolutely great, terrific. It's terrific to see all the young'uns here, because the young'uns, and big round of applause to all the young'uns, eh? Because the young'uns that are here today are our future. The young'uns here today are our future. And we got the aunties, we got our uncles here, we got our aunties, we got our uncles here, and we got everyone here. And we got people here from non-Indigenous backgrounds here too, just to share the fight and share the battle. And I've also got some of my Maori members that are here today. Very proud members. The boys are at the back. And I'm going to ask the boys if they wouldn't mind coming up. I've got to... Yeah, just in a minute, boys. And I got some Maori boys. So just wait, Steve. So I just want to work on a couple of issues here before I wind this up. I'd just like to say this to you. My opinion, and our union's opinion, and we've got to be in consultation with the aunties and the uncles down on the actual embassy there. Our opinion's pretty clear. Build us affordable housing, build it now. Get off your ass, stop the 10-year promise that you're giving us. We don't want it, 20 years. We don't want it, we want the housing, we want it now. So when I hear you march up the road tonight, I want to hear you shout, when do you want the housing? When do you want the housing? We're going to be loud, we've got to be proud. And I'm asking you all to be loud, to be proud, and also too, to look to the brother and sister and the young'un next to you. Give them a hug and turn around and say, we are here for you. This is our country, this is our fight. This always will be and always has been Aboriginal land, and we will defend it to the day we die. And the only thing I think you can tell I do a few speeches, but the only thing I just like to say to you, and like I said, and it's very remiss of me, I stand on Indigenous land, and I like to pay my respects, because it's an honour to be able to walk our land, to walk the spirits, and to walk our land and walk the land as a free man. But you've got to ask yourself, do you really feel free? No. I don't. I don't feel free when I've got a Prime Minister of this country who wants to be so divisive. That's what I don't feel free about. And until we have true recognition as Indigenous and the traditional landholders of this country, I don't believe that we will be truly what we call free. We need to have that recognition, and we need that recognition now. No. So we've got to take that fight up, and that's a fight I'm asking of all the young'uns and all the ones that are here today. Because we need to take that fight up to the people, we need to maintain the range, we need to take it up to the governments, and we need to ensure. But in closing, I'd just like to say this to your brothers and sisters. I'd like to thank everyone. It was solid attendance, one, but two, absolutely wicked. But two, we've got to send a clear message to the bad government down the road here at Macquarie Street. It couldn't even be bothered turning up tonight, all too hard. Friday night drinks, I can understand, you know, more important things to do instead of talking to us. That's fine. We've got to send a clear message to them. The clear message is nothing to be built on that land until we get affordable housing, and we get a guarantee from the government that we got affordable housing built before we turn one drop of soil. Now, before I hand it over back to the MC for the night, I'm just going to ask: there's a couple of there's going to be a little bit of flag and all that put on the ground here, and I'll just ask: we really do need help, and I believe charity starts at home, and we help each other. We help each other. I believe in that and a passion. So I ask any of you to come up, and if you can make a small contribution. This is for the 10 embassy, this is to ensure the embassy to keep running, and this is to make sure that we keep the fight, maintain the range, solidarity for us all. Let's go, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much.
This is a criminal government and it's a criminal law. I don't want fucking recognition in their constitution. They can recognise our sovereignty. The only other different thing is I think it's important that everybody's here, because there's two ones I say here. One, it's not just Abbott, he's just in your face. Abbott, Labor, they've all done the same shit, they have the same agenda and the same policies. Abbott's just in your face. I've often said this, we got kids here, so I'll try to keep it clean, but like, they do the same thing, Labor just uses lube. Neither of them give a shit, they have the same agenda on our mob. They've always done the same shit. Labor did not repeal any laws from Howard. They went straight in, they support the intervention, which is an invasion, which is actually a land grab, because it had nothing to do with anything. We don't get into our kids like that. Statistically, all of those statistics were lower. If anything, they've got worse since they went in. Point is, the mob asked for help there. 6 months before Mal Brah, who was the minister at the time, he said, go stick it. 6 months later, the 99-year land lease runs out. The mob said, well, we're not signing it. Then suddenly we're into our kids and we're drunks and everything and we need an intervention. It's a land grab. The mining's still going on. Check the shit. We got more to say on, but the racism in this country isn't small either. Shit, how many, there was 5 in 2 months murders by police around the country. 5 murdered. We got to change this language. It's not deaths in custody. They're murders in custody. They're murders. Let's call it what it is. I'll keep moving it on. Running down politicians, because I think most of them are shite and they don't do nothing for us. We do have one who's come, and he's come out. He's about the only one when we have ones at Parliament House that does come out and see us and speak, so I've got to give you props for that. David Shoebridge from the Greens.
Well, good evening, everybody, and what a wonderful turnout, an amazing turnout. Congratulations to all the organisers to be standing here on Gadigal land and making a loud and proud statement. As Rebel said, always was, always will be Aboriginal land, here on the block and in WA, across the country. And I pay my respects to those elders past and present, those who are here tonight, the many elders who are here tonight. I pay my respects to you all. I pay my respects to Ray Jackson, who's in hospital tonight and can't be here, and I hope he's in all our thoughts and prayers tonight. But I also cast my mind across to the other half of this continent, in WA, where you've got a state government joining together with the federal government to terminate 150 Aboriginal communities, to turn off the services, to stop providing basic health care, water, sewerage, power, rubbish, to remove the Aboriginal communities, to bulldoze their homes, to dig pits and to bury their homes in pits, to annihilate Aboriginal communities, following on from 2¼ centuries of invasion and annihilation and removal and disrespect at the highest levels. When will it stop? Well, it'll stop when we join together and we make it stop. It'll stop when we all go to the block and we stand together and we demand that the Aboriginal Housing Corporation step aside and leave that land to be Aboriginal land for Aboriginal housing. It's not there for developer speculation. It's there for Aboriginal people who live in Aboriginal housing, which they can afford in the middle of our city. In the middle of our city. Time and time again, I come out to rallies in the front of Parliament, or at Redfern, or here in Belmore. And whenever there's majority black faces in the rally, you'll never find another politician from Labor or the Coalition coming out to speak, to look you in the face, and to tell you why it is that Aboriginal people should continue to be dispossessed. They don't have the courage to come and stand and look Aboriginal people in the face and say, do you know what? They're just continuing 2¼ centuries of racist alienation of Aboriginal land. And it's no wonder they can't come out and look Aboriginal Australia in the face, because that's what it is. Whether it's the intervention, or it's the basics card, or it's the closure of Aboriginal communities, or it's supporting the Aboriginal Housing Company to remove Aboriginal land in the block. What we are seeing is a continuation of a deep racist culture in this country. And at the head of it at the moment is one of our most divisive political leaders this country's ever seen. Tony Abbott. Shame on that man. Shame on his division. We are better than that. We are better than that. Well, tonight, you're going to march from here to Daycorp, to the block, and to make it clear that Aboriginal Australia has friends across this nation. All races, all people, all ages. We will stand with you. We will support Aboriginal land, and we'll never let it be lost. Thank you so much.
Mihi atu ki te kai hautu nānei I homai nānei I tautoko a mātou I no atu tainua ki tēnei haora. Me mihi kau atu ki te tangata whenua. A koutou te iwi take, a koutou te iwi tuatahi o tēnei taki wā, puta noa tēnei toka. Ka tira, me mihi rangatira atu ki ngā mate maha e pika ana ki runga I a koutou, ki runga I a tātou. Ngā hunga ora, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. It would be remiss of us, as the Indigenous of Aotearoa, New Zealand, not to be here at this time. It would be wrong for us not to stand beside you, to the back of you, but never in the front of you. When I left New Zealand in 1999, my grandfather at the age of 92 said to me, "E tama, kia mau tēnei whakaaro." You remember that there are Indigenous people there, and you will always be the guests. You will never be the owner. What we are talking about, we're talking about the oldest race on this planet. We're not talking about the last rain shower. we're talking about the oldest race. We should be celebrating, commemorating, jumping up and down, and be privileged to be here with them at this time. And I know you are, because you're here. And I want to acknowledge you for being here, because there are others who are silent. There are others that are looking through their Facebook and their Twitter to see what's actually happening right now. But I want to reiterate the importance of continuing the voice and sending it out. You be the carrier of what you've heard tonight. You be that light lamp, that you share that light with everybody else, because that's what it takes. The unification of all of that. You see, this isn't new to my people. Right now, I have nannies and papas, mothers and fathers and kids in New Zealand who are thinking about what are we doing what are we doing with the tangata whenua, the Indigenous. Our people, it has evoked their spirits. And so we've come along tonight just to do that, to be with you and share your support with the oldest race on this planet. So as representatives of our country and even our politicians who are racking Abbott up, I would like to call our people to come and share the spirit with our Indigenous. Come forward and let us give over the haka and share that spirit with them.
So while the boys are coming up, can we take a moment and you can see why we defeated the colonists, because we want to inspire you to reach those heights. I want you to listen to how we do the haka. It's a special moment. It's a moment that you capture for this time. Kia koutou ngā iwi Māori, haramai ki konei, haramai ki konei. Tō kina tura ko ngako wako kirihia ngā manu tapua te ngako. O te pū take ngā mai o ngā wānui o ngā atua. O ngā iu whakatū hono mai. Heke toni mai. Ko ia ko tū kai pō e hoku atu ai o tātou mate. Ki te oki e. Takoto mai rā ki tō mopoka katau. Ko ia ko te whenua whero e karapoti hia nei e. Hei mate a one. Ia tātou te hunga ora. Mihi mai rā, whakatau mai rā. Ko ia ko te wairua ngā tīpuna. Ho te tūkau wairua tāne ka ora. Ho te tūkau wairua wahine ka ora. Ka hura ki te whakatōpū tangata. Te murua tahi e. Haka maua kia tīna. Hoinga! Huia! Taiki e! Tūtapa mai ko pakawanui ko pakawara. Koruru mahi ia tuki mai pau hoki a niwa. Hoi aruti te toi nuku, hoi aruti te toi rangi hamo ha kotaramana wai. Kotaramana tū koruruki hi a koruruki waioriki. Koruruki hi a koruruki waioraka. Ka peti, ka peta, ka pe marangai tū. Aua ke eke panuku eke tangaroa. Whāno, whāna, hara mai te toki. Honi e, hui e, taiki e.
Let's march hard. Let's march humbly, but keep the rumble.
That was so powerful. Thank you, our brothers and sisters from the long white cloud. Aotearoa, we'll never forget you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is a call to arms. Let's talk to the world about putting embargoes on these companies in this country that continue to oppress Aboriginal people and breach our human rights. Let's talk to the world about closing Australia for business until this issue is dealt with, until our human rights are recognised and our law and our land is given back to us.
Thank you for you Maori brothers getting up. That's peace, deadly. All right, just quick yarn, then we'll get Albert over yarn and then we'll move on. Just again, touching on it, racism in this country, it's systemic. People talk about systematic racism, it's systemic here. That pertains to the entire fucking system. Every system in this country has systematic racism in it. They hit us at every angle they can, whether it's the Gungis killing us, whether it's knocking down houses, whether it's giving sellout, self-appointed leaders a voice instead of the people on the ground. It's time for people to get up and take their voice. This is what we need to do. We need these numbers in the streets. The other one I say, which again, I forget which one said it, but it's it's great you fellas here. This is what it needs. We all got to support each other. But a point I make at a lot of these rallies, if people have been doing this and fighting for our people's rights for the last 50 to 100, 150 years, you would have been protecting the own white privilege that you're now losing. All these new laws are not new laws, they're blackfella laws. Basics card has now got some new name for the rest of you, but they've been doing it on us for how many years now? Nearly, yeah. Well, what's the other one? Consorting bikie laws are not new, they're consorting laws. Half of my fucking mates have been done on, half the brothers have been done on that shit their entire fucking lives. They're blackfella laws. Terror laws aren't new, they've locked us up for a week without a fucking charge, without anything forever. There's heaps of these, they're blackfella laws, they've been repackaged and renamed. What's the other one? Work for the dole, that's called CDEP. I could sit here all fucking night. If people had got off their ass and fought for us like this now, so I'm not shitting on you fellas here, but if he's had done it forever, you'd actually be protecting the white privilege you're now losing, and our mob wouldn't be so fucked over like we are. So we need to keep this kind of thing going. We need to keep people here. There's another one on the 1st of May. We're going to come back on the 1st of May. We'll have more people than this here on the 1st of May. I'll ask Brother Albert to get up and have a yarn now, and then we're going to move on. So just follow the behind the sign when we do. But we'll get Brother Albert to step up now and have a yarn before we go to the next bit.
First of all, I'd like to pay acknowledgements and respects to the Gadigal people whose lands were invaded and never ceded. Look, the show out here tonight is pretty amazing. I think it shows how much of the importance it is about what's going on in the political arena around this country today. Our communities are in a state of emergency. We've been declaring a state of emergency in our communities for over 100 years because of the neglect of what these government people are doing to us today. It is time that we started to collect ourselves together and started to really show what it means to us to be black, what it means to us to be Aboriginal people in this country, what it means to us as sovereign owners of this country. And how are we prepared to make those changes? And how are we prepared to support each other so that we do gain our sovereign rights and we start to restore some humanity back into our communities? We're all here because of this very important reason of why these communities are closing in Western Australia. We see all over the media 150 communities spread out across Western Australia. That is false. We have over 400 communities that are at risk of being moved and forcibly closed because it spreads from Western Australia through to South Australia. And pretty soon it's going to spread into New South Wales. In 2007, me and my brother had done a documentary on the Gordon Estate in West Dubbo. That was the beginning of the forced closures of Aboriginal communities. It has started in 2007 and it has extended now into the other states in Western Australia and in South Australia. It was because we had remained silent. It was because we have become too complacent. It was because we accept the white man's influence and we do not give a stuff about it until we start to put ourselves and our communities at risk like we are now. We have over 15,000 Aboriginal children in out-of-home care. 15,000. That equals 30,000 parents. That equals 90,000 parents and grandparents that have been affected. That's pretty much all across our communities. And it's been going on for far too long. It's about time now that we started to stand up and started to show the power and the strength that we can gain by uniting in force, by creating solidarity amongst us. This is what you call solidarity. This is what you call coming together to fight the systemic abuse. The systemic abuse that is continually hounding our communities. It's time for us to really stand up as the custodians of creation that we say we are. If we are the custodians of creation, then why aren't we fighting as sovereign owners? Why aren't we putting up a stand? Why aren't we making a commitment to that role as custodians of creation? Because at the moment, there's too many of us that are sitting on our asses. There's too many of us that are too complacent and accepting the white man and the colonial restraints that they are applying to our communities. It's about time we started to break those chains. We're the only ones that can break those chains. And we can do that. When we get up to the block, we'll be doing a proclamation on our sovereign rights. A proclamation that we, as individual Aboriginal people of our own nation, can proclaim that we have a sovereign right over the lives and the livelihoods of our people and our communities. Every time we come to a rally, every time we walk the streets, we are singing out, what do we want? Now is the time. Now is the time to declare what you want. Declare it by proclaiming your sovereign rights. And you will have that opportunity when we get up to the block. And this is how we create solidarity. This is how we march together as one. And this is how we start to force the government's hand, instead of them applying force to our communities.